Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about crafting characters readers love. That is a thinker. And luckily, I have Zachary here who's going to help us think about this in a whole new way. So, thank you so much, Zachary, for coming on to my show, sharing your time and your perspective. Let's just dive right in. When you hear those words, crafting characters readers love, what does that make you think about?
I think about relatability. I think of some of the characters that have lived in our collective consciousness over the past century, and some of the most iconic ones are ones that can be related to in some way. Um, you think of like Mickey Mouse, and he has this humor and American spirit that's very resonant with a lot of people. You think of characters like Harry Potter because he's the underdog and he needs to fight to get ahead. And a lot of us feel like that in our lives. You think of all of these kind of characters in popular media, and I think they all have the same kind of essence of being able to sit with a niche group of people and yet feel like everyone's friend at the same time.
Yes, I love the way that you put that because if you ever think about any character that you have loved from any movie, from any book, from any TV show, from anything that was not your normal human being that you interaction that you've known, it really makes a difference because you realize, like, oh, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I understand you. Like, I would go through something like that, or I would move in that manner if that happened to me. You know what I mean? Or I would rebel if I needed to stand up and defend my sister or whatever. I'm thinking of um Hunger Games, when she stood up for her sister and she didn't want to let her go through those games and she did it for herself. So many people can stand up for all these characters. They make it so real. And for you, what makes these characters real? You know what I mean? Like how do you make them from your mind into paper or into the movies or into screenwriting or how do you make it real for you?
I spend a lot of time thinking over when I write a character, it's not just about are they interesting and do they have a motivation that makes sense. It's also are they consistent? Do they have a personality that is unchanging throughout the story, or does it change in a way that makes sense?
Mm,
Because some characters are static because some people really don't change. And if they do change, they need to change in ways that they're reactionary to what's actually happening to them.
yeah.
So most of the time, your main characters, which are the ones that you really need people to love and to buy into, are going to have changes that they go through. Now, that's going to mean maturity into a better version of their personality
Mm,
rather than a complete 180. Because if you start a book or a movie or a screenplay or whatever it is with a character that's really whiny and sad and going through a rough time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to start a character at if they like with my series, The Eternal Chronicles, I had people tell me, your character's really kind of a whiny, crying kind of person. And I'm like, well, he lost his mom, he lost his brother, his dad is emotionally distant. He has good reason to. But as he learns how to deal with that grief, he finds strength that he didn't know that he had, and those changes move him forward into a better version of himself. So I think that's kind of the core of it. Anything that the characters go through has to change them in a way that feels authentic to who they are without disrupting the core of what makes them unique.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean because I'm currently writing my novel. And one thing that I'm doing is trying to keep that consistency and trying to show the growth while trying to show the pain and the emotions. You know what I mean? Like you have to show it all. And when you do, you show the evolution of the characters, how they evolved from the beginning to where they end. And I love how your character was like, yeah, he was whiny because he had his right, and that's what I wanted. So thank you for getting that, you know? But at the end, like you realize like he's learned from it. He grew from it. He evolved from it. He's now a better person from it. He no longer allows that to define him or be his obstacle in front of him, you know? And that is truly what makes those type of characters relatable because you're able to realize and look back within yourself and like, yeah, that was a crappy time in my life. Yeah, I was a little bitchy all the time. Yeah, it wasn't always the best things I should have said, but now I'm better from it. Now I do better and I know better. And I think that's what makes characters loved because you're able to see yourself in them. And I think that's when you're able to really make a good impactful character where like they want to be them in Halloween, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They want to inspire you the artist, the author, whoever is doing the work to make more of it. But how do you keep your emotions away from the character's emotions? You know what I mean? Like when you are in like a down mood, how do you prevent that from going into your characters when they're not supposed to be in a down mood? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I wish I had a better answer for you. Because generally speaking, when I sit down to write, I get into the scene so fully that I'm kind of in whatever mood the character's supposed to be in. I think that maybe that is my advice. Maybe if you are having a hard time keeping who you are as the author separate from the work, maybe it's time to step away and regulate apart from working for a moment to then be able to step back in and enjoy your world. Because I think
Yes.
that's the best way to write is to immerse yourself in it and to really feel what the characters are feeling. I I actually related to that, I just finished the first draft of my newest novel, Aisha's Secret, which is an Aladdin retelling. And the main character, Aisha, who's sort of takes the place of like Princess Jasmine, but it's a fun twist. She's actually the thief, but her wish gets her placed in the princess spot, which is
Oh,
fun.
that is
Yeah.
fun.
But of course I'm writing her as the main character. It's from a first person perspective. And so I was telling my wife, yeah, it feels really weird to kind of write this from a female perspective because like I'm having to put it in ways that I wouldn't normally think about it and react to things, but she feels very authentically female, not in like that. I don't know if you've seen that TikTok series where like men who write female characters and they have like these weird things that like aren't anatomically possible. It's not like that. I learned from that series. She feels authentic. She feels like a strong but still feminine female character. And I was telling my wife, it feels kind of weird, especially to write the romance, because I'm having her kiss Aladdin and I'm like describing things that you've described. And it was a weird thing, but it did help to really just be in the moment with Aisha to feel the things that she was feeling to make sure that especially her relationship with Aladdin came through well as I was writing the book.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean because I want to just touch into the first part when you were talking about when you immerse yourself into the characters when you're writing the book. Oh my goodness, Zachary, I agree because when I'm writing when I wrote my first draft of my novel, there was a part where the mother and the daughter were having like a heart-to-heart moment, and as that was writing it, I was crying. I felt the pain, I felt the tears, like I felt it. You know what I mean? So as tears were dropping down my face, I was writing every emotion and everything because it makes it so much more realer. So when the reader reads it, they're able to read and feel everything. So I love that you say you have to sometimes immerse yourself with the characters, and if you're not in the right frame of mind to get into that world, then give yourself that break, because I validate that, because I know that when I approached my book in a certain manner, I would change her point of view or her mannerism, and I'm like, that's not her. And you know what I mean, the character would be like, yo, that's not me, what are you doing, like we're not going in this direction, you know what I mean, like this, stop this.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you sometimes you really do have to like take that moment of break so that when you enter into that world, it truly is like it's a whole new being. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Purple Crayon, but it's
Yes.
really, you
Yeah.
have, okay, so you remember towards the end where the Larry the librarian or whatever, he gets an opportunity to go into the world that he immersed in, like he made, and then he opens it up and then he's like, oh, I'll go in there then, and he goes into the character of who he portrayed himself to be and all of that. Like that's exactly how it kind of is when you're writing. Like you step into that world and you see everything, you feel everything, you experience everything. And I know what you mean when it comes to writing about the opposite sex and trying to get their emotions and get their feelings. Like sometimes it is a little difficult because it's like I have to, like I'm in this portion right now where it's about the men, you know what I mean, manly men, like, ooh, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like so sometimes I have to like get myself into that character, and sometimes I'll just talk to my husband and I'm just like, what would you do or how would you handle this, and he would be so straight up, and I'm like, I don't need cover quotes, I don't want you to say what I think I want to hear, I want you to just respond just instinctively. And I think that's what has helped me write as well, when I try to write the men's perspective, is because it allows me to actually take a man's point of view. And I think you having your wife allows you to take the woman's point of view too, and like ask her like, okay, how would you really think about this, or how would you really feel, and it really changes the whole tone. So I think that is the beauty of just having the characters, is just allowing an opportunity of what if and the twists and turns of it, you know. So I guess I have to ask you, what really motivates you to keep writing?
I've always wanted to write ever since I was a little kid, so I don't really know any other way to be than to be a storyteller.
Mm,
Even in my professional kind of sphere, I teach English, and so I'm always immersed in the field of story. I teach music as well, but even music is storytelling. It's just
it
with
is.
more feelings
Sound.
and emotions and sound rather
Yeah.
than words explicitly. But so my whole life is about the importance and the power of story. I don't really know how to separate myself from it.
Well, at least you have that opportunity to always be in the environment that you've always wanted. You know what I mean? Where you knew that you were meant to tell stories and to imagine and to create, because some people didn't get that until later on in life, you know? So it is an opportunity to be like, you know what, I'm truly am blessed for the fact that I am doing something that I've always wanted to do as a child, because that is something not a lot of people get to have. And so it's
It
like,
is. Yeah.
what are you grateful for in this life?
Mm. There's so many things. I keep a journal every night, and part of that journal is listing things that um, I express gratitude. So, of course, I'm very grateful for my wife and my son, especially. It took us 4 years to conceive him, and so that was a big deal for him to be born.
Yeah.
Best day of my life, well, topped only by the day that I got married, because it's sort of, in order for him to be here, we had to have that relationship. Um, so very grateful for and motivated by my family. And we've just we went through a really hard time. Um, not in 2020, but like the year after was just awful for us. And to come out on the other side, we're doing so much better financially. We've got I've got some secret projects that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but that are very exciting for the future of my writing career. I'm actually starting a coaching program for people that want to kind of go the homeschool directions. I'm teaching other people how to teach, and so I have a lot that I'm very blessed to be able to do and to be able to have and to be able to give back a lot of what we've been blessed with.
Well, absolutely. It really does sound like you most definitely put your life to service and serving not only yourself but your family, the ones you love, the ones that you're around, and even the ones you don't even know yet. You know what I mean? And that's truly something that where a lot of people don't realize that your purpose in one way or another is going to be in some type of service, you know. And when you have this idea of already you're serving, and even if it's by writing, even if it's by teaching, even if it's by any little thing, it's not on you, so it truly does make it more memorable. So I have to ask you, has there ever been a character that you did not like?
Yes, I think that it's writing fantasy, writing villains, you kind of it's a love-hate relationship with a lot of the villains, but I think it's harder to write a truly evil villain if you like them a little bit. So, especially with the main villain in Eternal Chronicles, I did kind of like him at the end just because he was so fun to write because he was so maniacally evil. But with the most recent draft for Aisha's Secret that I wrote, the villain, I named him Rafa, is so manipulative and power hungry and nasty that I can't stand him even in a he's kind of fun to write kind of way because he's not. He's horrible. I hate him so much. He serves his purpose in the story, but I don't think that I could write a whole series with him as the main villain. So I'm glad that it's a
Well,
one and done.
you never know. You never know because let's be honest, like when you write and you write characters, it's not until your fans are like, "Oh, we like him. Show me more of him. Tell me his backstory. Tell me how he got this evil." You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
never know. Once you publish it and the audience and your fans actually read it, maybe down the road he might have his story. And nowadays, people are
Maybe.
in the team villains. You know what I mean? I know tons of people who love villains. They buy coffee mugs of villains. They go all out in the Halloween. Oh my God, they love their villains. You know what I mean? So you never know if that's a good villain that you already hate, then that means there's another person out there
Maybe.
that's like, I like that. We can
Oh, I
hang.
feel like people like their morally gray villains that are kind of could go either way. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I think it was like the Evil Queen. She kind of got reinvented by Once Upon a Time when
Yeah.
that aired on ABC, and suddenly everyone loved the Evil Queen, myself amongst them. But it was because there was like a reason behind the evil, and it wasn't just, I just want to hurt people.
Yeah,
'Cause I feel
yeah.
like people can get kind of like, if they can understand the reason for someone kind of choosing that path, they can kind of vibe with it. But if it's, no, I just want power and to be able to hurt people, I feel like that's a little bit, people don't necessarily, because people love how fabulous Cruella de Vil is, for example,
Mm-hmm.
but no one's like, yeah, I can see why she would want to make coats out of puppies. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean because the new Cruella, it's very like, okay, she's making a stand for herself. She's coming because she's trying to prove a point that she belongs in this industry. I get it. We get it. And that so, but yeah, nobody's gonna really wanna root for somebody who's cutting like dogs open and trying to make jackets because the first 101 Dalmatians, the remake of in the human version. They
One
played
of
her.
those, yeah.
Yeah, they played her beautifully. She was after the puppies and she wanted the puppies and her evil laugh was amazing. But the redo of it really does switch up the story a lot. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Sometimes it kind of just depends on the person, and where their heart is and what they attract. But yeah, that's truly is interesting. So I know time is catching up to us. So what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
I think that when you look at creating characters, put a piece of yourself on the page through them. Trying to create someone who's the polar opposite of you in every way is going to be so hard because you'll never be able to think like them. But if they can reflect even just a portion of who you are in some way, it's so much easier to write them and to write honestly because you have to be honest when you're writing. Even in a fictional novel, you have to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree. Like people don't realize like when you write, you're putting a piece of your heart, you know what I mean? You're putting a piece of your life, putting a piece of your story, your history, your experiences in one way or another, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's fantasy. We zizz it up whenever we can or wherever it does to make it make sense or to make it make more dramatic. But at the same time, it's about my heart, you know what I mean? I've been there. I felt the pain. I felt the joy. I felt the peace. I felt the
Yeah.
betrayal, you know what I mean, in one way or another. So yeah, I agree when you put that in there and you don't be afraid to expose yourself in that manner in your writing, you really do make a magnificent, amazing book that not only do people want to continue to read, but it makes them relatable. You're able to relate to the book. You're able to share it with the world and let everybody know, scream it on the rooftop, this book is amazing. And it's only because somebody put their heart into it. So it's like you can't be afraid to put that heart and put that honesty and just reveal yourself in that manner. That's so beautiful. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, go check out Zachary. Have access to his books, access to his website, access to all the great stuff that he has to offer the world so that you can continue on thinking. Because isn't that the point? Yes, it is. So continue on thinking, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.